Okay, we're looking at the second level now of write a linear equation from 2 points. This is a 2R9. We're dealing with negatives. It seems how they increase the difficulty level. So if you saw the first video on this, what we're going to do is we're going to start off by writing our equation of a line, which is y equals mx plus b. We don't have our slope and we don't have our y-axis intercept. We have our 2 points, which means we can use the slope formula that goes a little like this. It says y2 minus y1 all over x2 minus x1. Remember, slope is always rise over run. It's always a fraction. We can simplify it to a whole number, but it is a fraction. So let's use our process. Which of these y's is the bigger number? 10 is bigger. So let's go 10 minus 0. 10 minus 0 is 10. Now here's where it gets tricky, because now we're going to do negative 6 minus 1. So remember, negative 6, the minus is already in our equation, and we're dealing with a negative. So we have to make these two negatives into a positive. So let's make it into a positive. Two negatives make a positive. So what's negative 6 plus 1? It is negative 5. So 10 over negative 5. And 10 divided by negative 5 means that our slope is negative 2. So up in our equation, we have our slope now. We're going to write y equals negative 2x plus b. Now to solve, we are going to plug in one of these points into our equation. So if you remember from before, I said anytime there's a 0, you should use the 0. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to use this point. So remember, this is your x, and this is your y. So let's plug those values in. We know y is 0, so I'm going to put a 0 right here. 0 equals negative 2 times negative 1, negative 2 times negative 1 plus b. Now, negative 2 times negative 1 is positive 2. Negative times a negative is a positive. Positive 2 plus b. Now, to solve for b, we subtract 2 from both sides. We're going to subtract 2 from both sides. And b is going to equal, this cancels out, and b equals negative 2. So let's plug in our values. We know our slope is negative 2. We know that our b value is negative 2. But just as before, don't forget, if there's a negative sign right there, we don't want to add another negative because that would make a positive in the answer and it would not be correct. Okay, and there's another challenge here is that they'll get rid of the skeleton. So you have to go in and you have to type in y equals mx plus b, and then you can type it in after. So let's try this one. This one's interesting as well because there's zeros for one of our coordinates, one of the points. So just as before, let's go ahead and write our equation of a line. Y equals mx plus b. Let's find what the slope is by using the slope formula, which is y2 minus y1 all over x2 minus x1. All right, let's start with a larger y. So 7 is larger than 0, so let's subtract this way. 7 minus 0 is 7, and 6 minus 0 is 6. So our slope is 7/6. So let's plug that into our equation. So y equals 7/6 x plus b. Now this would be a lot harder if we didn't have these zeros. So like I said, the 0 is going to cancel out the fraction to 0. It'd be a lot harder if we use 6 here. So let's go ahead and use 0, 0. Plug in the values. Remember, this is your x and this is your y. X comes before y in the alphabet, and it always comes before the y in an ordered pair. So y is 0, so let's plug a 0 in. Let's do 7/6 times 0 plus b. This 7/6 times 0 is 0. We have a lot of zeros here, don't we? 0, 0 plus b. So it looks like our b is 0. Plug in our answers up here. So m, here's your slope. We found it to be 7/6. Put that in there. And we found our b to be 0. Now you don't want to do that because if it's plus 0, just go ahead and get rid of it and then click submit.